Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of Real Take Real Estate with the Joseph team, where we give you our real take on today's housing market and everything to do with real estate. I'm your host, Maddie Maloney, joined by my co-hosts,
Joe Sambear
and Sam Fada.
Today, we are talking about how to win in a low inventory market. Unfortunately, this is still something that we are dealing with, just not having a lot of houses on the market, but we want to give you the strategies and tips in order to make your offer as strong as possible and help you win and still get an accepted offer in this low inventory market. So today, we're going to talk about some strategies for if you're a first-time home buyer, maybe this is your next home purchase, and just a couple of things that you really need to keep in mind when you are just starting your home search, or maybe when you even have that thought that you want to start searching for a home. We got some steps that you should really take in order to make sure that you can have a very strong offer and help win in this low inventory market. So starting off with the first-time home buyers, lots of times with first-time home buyers, there's going to be a lot that you do not know going into this. And we've talked about this before with making sure that you have a rock star team behind you. And so that's going to include your realtor, your lender, maybe your inspection person as well. But starting off, when you even think that you want to see a home, not when you find a home that you want to make an offer on, you should be talking with your realtor and your lender months in advance to make sure that you have everything solidified. There's often times when we are helping first-time home buyers and we're starting to get them pre-approved. Maybe it's a little bit last minute, but then, something comes up. Maybe their income isn't what they thought it was going to be. Maybe there's some other things on their credit that is going to hinder them from making an offer right away. Those are things that we want to be able to clear up at the very beginning so that you have no concerns going into seeing a home and being able to make an offer. We always want to make sure that we can provide you with some scenarios on different houses, even if it's not something that you are for sure going to make an offer on, but it's within your purchase price and the area that you're looking at. We will then send you a scenario and a letter for that property, but the scenario is going to be more to make sure that you are very comfortable with that total monthly payment and funds for closing. So first step is getting with your lender and realtor as soon as you can. We always start with a soft credit pull, at least with us, so it has no implication on your hard credit. And sometimes that can be a worry to people, I don't want to have my credit pulled until I know for sure that I'm going to be making an offer on the house. Well, if you don't get us everything that you need until you make an offer, and then there's some things that come up that we need to see, some more pay stubs or documents, you might lose out on making an offer on the home that you really wanted because you started late in the process. So that's just one thing for first-time home buyer. Make sure you get your rock solid team behind you early before that happens and you find your dream home that you want to make an offer on.
If I can add something, Maddie, too, is it's not even meeting with your realtor partner or your lender, it's making sure you have the right ones in this market too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because my first question to a first-time home buyer is like, do you really want to buy a house right now? And they're like, of course we do. And I said, well, you really need to have an efficient realtor who is in this business who's going to get you to that place. Because we see kind of two paths here. We see a lot of first-time home buyers who are not executing and finding their home. And then we have successful ones that are entering the market, finding a home, closing.
Oh, yeah.
So there's two different paths here, and you have to make sure you really have that right team. And then the other piece is when you're meeting with them, you should almost go through a dry run and understand the topics of what is home inspection. Are we going to make that part of our offer? Is that a big issue for us? It should be. Is it going to be a pass-fail home inspection? Are we going to ask? Go through these items, understand the terms and the terminology. So as you find a house that presents itself, you've already discussed what's an escalation clause. What does that mean? What does it mean to go over the purchase price? What's an appraisal gap? Have a general understanding of these definitions and have a conversation of how is the market I'm in right now? Is this a seller's market? Is it low inventory? So when you meet with your realtor, have a general discussion about the market and what you're looking at so you have a perspective and then we can dial it in as we as you find homes.
And so then it's not even just interviewing the realtor. You should also be interviewing your lender as well. In a low inventory market where it's hot right now, where in certain areas houses are flying off the market still today, you want to make sure that your lender is going to be there for you, even if it is a late night letter that you need, or a late night scenario, or something over the weekend that offers are due and you really want to make this offer on it. Make sure that you have interviewed your lender so that you know what your expectations are and their expectations as well. I think us as a team, we really pride ourselves in being able to be available to people. That's why we work as a team. So if one of us is unavailable, we have the two others to rely on. But making sure that your lender is going to be there with you no matter what, in order to help you get that accepted offer and be ready when you are ready to make an offer.
And one thing too that Joe said, being prepared, you said it as well, Maddie, and having the right team in place to win. And for example, winning might not be always just, oh, my offer got accepted, but did I win a good deal on it? Or did I do something stupid, basically, where you could have, the agent that's not in tune with the market. For example, I just had one where I'm helping the buyers. They're selling their home and they're working with two different agents one selling their home and the next one they're buying out of area. And so what happened is the buyers of the home they're selling weren't actually competing against anybody. And their realtor wasn't in tune with the market. They came in right off the bat, offered $20,000 over, waived inspections, guaranteed appraisal, and they might feel like they won. They got that instant gratification, but at the end of the day, they didn't necessarily get a great deal. So it's like you have to have the right people in place, asking all the right questions. Making sure you're as prepared as possible, because you could win the home, but did you overpay for it? That's something that people think about.
You do not want to have that buyer's regret afterwards, especially if you're not competing against anyone. Why offer up all your cards when you can hold them back and just see, are there going to be any other offers? Let's make this offer first, wait to hear back, have the realtor talk with the listing agent, and see what the best plan of action is going to be. It's not going to be the same for every home. You won't need to offer over asking for every single property that you're looking at. It's going to depend on the area, going to depend on what type of home it is, may even depend on the realtor on the listing side, how you approach this. But having a great realtor on your side and then a lender who will be there no matter what time you want to make an offer on is so important to be able to help you win in this market, which is getting into a home but feeling comfortable and knowing that, everything that's going into it. You've gotten this scenario, the monthly payment, what funds are going to be needed for closing, so that there's no hidden fees or anything that may, go wrong later in the process.
And there are little things a really good agent can do to still protect you. So even you can be competitive and still have protections with a home inspection and other things.
So now we can talk about, so that was first-time home buyers. Now let's talk about that next home purchase. So you have a home and you're looking to upgrade. Maybe your family is growing, so you want to get a little bit bigger of a house. That is where it also can be a little bit tough to win in a low inventory market, is if you have this house to sell and you're planning on using the equity from the home for the new down payment. Well, right now, if it's a hot market, it's going to be hard to get a seller to accept an offer if it's going to be contingent on a sale. So that's where we come in to work with you to see, all right, what other options do we have to remove this contingency to make sure that your letter is going to be up at the top and that you are going to have a very strong offer be considered? Sam, can you talk about some of those examples of how we can help and maybe not remove those contingencies?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm going to point back to being prepared up front. Again,
yes.
Not walking into the home, I love it, I want to make an offer on it. You've got weeks in advance of where you strategized a plan, you know what to expect, and then you can build from there. So you have the bridge loan that you mentioned could be one option, where you basically have an equity loan on your current home to leverage some cash out to use as down payment. Or you can look into different strategies. If you have 3 or 5% down and you qualify for both mortgage payments, basically with your debt to income ratio, putting a smaller down payment to start, and then after you sell your current home, you can recast and get that new payment lower. But it's just, again, building out those options and strategies to be able to buy without selling, and plan in advance and get the right people on your team again.
And I think even for the move up buyer, the short term, meeting the short term objectives, but still putting you in a good long term plan, we put a lot of time and consideration to making sure like we don't have to do this multiple times. Like Sam said, putting a lower down payment, but knowing we have a plan of doing a recast, re-amortization without having to do a full new refinance. So we really try to spend a lot of time to put you in a position to win, even if it's a little harder or more cumbersome. But if that puts us in a long-term good plan, we'd like to try to meet both objectives if it's possible.
Exactly.
Let's go. So we talked about the bridge and recast. Joe, can you just explain briefly? I know that we've had a podcast on it, but some people they don't even know that a recast is an option, or that's something they think that it has to be a full refinance. So can you explain what a recast is and where it comes into play and how it can be a very useful tool?
Yeah, so recast or reamortization, they're one and the same. How that can be utilized is when you going to your serviced, whoever's servicing your mortgage, you'd reach out after the closing. So we're talking about post-closing, after you've purchased the home and the mortgage has been executed, and all of a sudden you have a lump sum of money. So when you have a lump sum of money, let's say it's $50,000, if you apply that money to your existing mortgage, it does not affect the payment. Your payment would remain the same. So you can always pay your principal balance down, but what you've done is just shorten the term of your mortgage and the overall interest you're paying. But you're continuing to pay at higher payment. So that's step one, is paying down the principal. Step two, we could look at recasting, which means you're going to formally notify your service provider that you'd like the payment re-amortized over the remaining term. So if you have 29 years left and you make this principal payment, they'd re-amortize it over 29 years. So usually it starts with a request, a formal request, email, phone call, something like that. And then the next step is usually there's a fee involved to do this. So you'd make the principal payment, pay the fee, and then usually within a week or two, the service provider, we would contact you and say, your documentation's ready to modify. It's actually modifying your mortgage. So it's actually a recorded document. You come in after you've made the payments, and now you have a new payment, they'll start the following month. So it's a great tool.
Yeah, that's a great tool, and that's big too, because a lot of people are always worried about PMI and putting less than 20% down, but that's kind of a way to, you don't have the cash from your departing residence sale yet, and so when that takes place, you get the cash from that, put it down on the new mortgage, you can remove the PMI, and then you can reduce that monthly payment for a small fee.
The one advice I'd give on the PMI thing is it is a little more complex, so you'd want to let the service provider know, the servicer of your mortgage know that that's your intention is to remove that, and follow the steps therein. Because sometimes what you don't want to do is just make that principal payment assuming that mortgage insurance is going to be removed, especially if it's been a long time since you closed.
Correct.
You're going to want to make sure you understand the removal process, if it can be removed,
That's
if additional principal is going to be needed, those type of things.
Have to request it specifically.
Yep.
And so there's great options, if you are utilizing a bridge or, just trying to get into that next home, removing those contingencies. Maybe you're not initially putting down as much as you wanted to because that other home hasn't sold, but the great thing is that we can still help you get into this new home that you love. It might not be at the terms right away or at the payment that you want, but once that other house sells and you have that lump sum, there's options for you to help lower that payment down the line. And so that's why you really need to have someone that you can talk through all these options. If you're continuing to make offer after offer and nothing is getting accepted, that's when you should have a conversation with your lender and your realtor, get everyone together to just have that conversation of, all right, what can we do now to try to make your offer stronger? Maybe what's working, what's limiting you from not getting an accepted offer. Right now, of course, cash is king, so it's sometimes hard to beat that, but there's lots of other strategies that you can put into your offer that can help your offer look very good compared to some of those other ones. So just a couple of things that you can talk about with your realtor when making that offer. There's an appraisal gap coverage. If the appraisal comes in low, maybe putting in there that you will cover the gap up to a certain amount. You can shorten or waive the inspection periods. We do not recommend foregoing the inspection altogether. Please go see our podcast with Jason Merton with Accurate Inspections to get more information on that. Still have an inspection, but there's some ways that you can put it in there that make it more
attractive
to the seller. There's also some things like a rent back agreement or an escalation clause, going $500, $1,000 over the highest bid. There's lots of different strategies nowadays that you can put into your offer. So it's not only just talking with us about maybe how to remove that contingency, but talking with your realtor about, all right, what else can we do? How can we make this the most attractive offer as possible?
Quick closing. I don't know if we covered that.
Quick
closing
yes.
can be
That's a good
attractive
one.
to sellers.
Absolutely.
We can get it done quick.
And you can beat a cash offer.
Yeah, you can.
Because sometimes a cash offer, cash is king, they close quick. But sometimes the person offering cash is trying to leverage and negotiate a better price because of it, or has needs occupancy immediately. There's other ways to go against a cash offer too. So.
For sure.
So we have talked about how to be prepared as a first-time home buyer, getting with your lender, getting with your realtor soon, getting pre-qualified as soon as you can, just to have that ready for when you are ready to make an offer. That's not saying that, sometimes we know a house will pop up you weren't really expecting or looking at the time, but this turns out to be your dream home and your dream area and you want to be able to make an offer. We will absolutely work with you to get you that letter and get you qualified as soon as we possibly can. It's just going to be a lot at once. There's going to be a lot of documentation needed, lots of work done up front. Not to say that we can't do it, because we absolutely can, and we will help you get into this home if you really want it. But just to put a little bit less stress on you, let's start that process a little bit earlier. Helps everyone out in the situation, helps the realtor, helps you, helps us as well. So that, and then we talked about the next home purchase, maybe utilizing a bridge or some of your equity, and then just some of the things that you can talk with your realtor about when making an offer, how to make it as attractive as possible. It is a hot market, but we are still having first-time homebuyer clients, people with down payment assistance. They are getting accepted offers right now. Might take a little bit longer, but there's still success to be had, and there's homes out there that, will work, and it's just, you gotta maybe wait a little bit, but just keep faith, make sure you have the team behind you, and you can definitely win in this market.
We want to help you win.
We want to help you win. You should have a team that wants to help you win, that wants to help you achieve your goals, and not just have you go financial bankrupt or lose all of your cash. No, we want you to be successful.
Yep.
So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in today with Real Take Real Estate. We will catch you next time. Thank you so much.